For more on the attack, I spoke earlier to Kamran Bokhari from the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute. He's a specialist on the geopolitics of the Middle East, South Asia, political Islam, and violent extremism. I asked him about the young Pakistani woman who was key to repelling the terrorist and the consulate security situation.
This was a hardened facility. This isn't your soft target. So I'm not surprised that the terrorists weren't able to commit the kind of carnage that they'd hoped to. So that's number one. Number two is undoubtedly this female senior police officer did a fantastic job with her team to thwart these guys from getting in. Number three, it doesn't look like these guys were well trained. But I think the most important aspect in all of this is that it's probably the first time that I've seen, Baloch rebels try to attack an international target. Usually they attack railway lines, electricity pylons, kill law enforcement people, and not in Karachi, but in rural areas and suburban areas. So this is kind of uncharacteristic of them to go out and go after an international actor and risk condemnation at a time when their leadership is basically asking the world to say, look, we're being subjugated by the Pakistani state, we need rights, and so we need your support. So this is odd.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions, because I've read up on them as well, and all of the attacks in the past are exactly as you described. So does this mean they're stepping up their game? Is this a splinter group? I mean, what can we read into this?
I mean, it's difficult to say precisely without much information. It could be a splinter group. It could be a new group that said, we're going to take this to the next level. Definitely, they're coming at a time, they're out in the limelight and attacking at a time when China and Pakistan are working very closely to develop not just that port city Gwadar, but also the broader China-Pakistan economic corridor. That's a massive infrastructure development project that runs the entire length of Pakistan all the way to the Chinese border. And so, they definitely, whoever is behind it, wants to be able to send a message to the Chinese that doing business as Pakistan is not a good idea, and it's trying to undermine the Pakistani state's efforts to seek economic respite at a time when, the financial and economic situation is pretty biting for Islamabad.
The Prime Minister himself, Imran Khan, put out this tweet. The failed attack against the Chinese consulate was clearly a reaction to the unprecedented trade agreements that resulted from our trip to China. The attack was intended to scare Chinese investors and undermine CPEC. These terrorists will not succeed. Is that the message? They really are trying to undermine this relationship?
Yes, but I think that it's not just the relationship. I mean, if this were jihadists, it would be much easier to explain. Their signature MO is to create enough chaos in the country and then benefit from it. Since the Baloch outfit has taken responsibility, and one really needs to sort of unpack and examine that claim of responsibility before we can say anything for sure, makes it really difficult. I mean, this is sort of like, something that we weren't expecting, at least those of us who follow this kind of stuff, for Baloch rebels to go after the Chinese. It makes sense for them to go after Pakistani targets, as I've said, but not the Chinese.